Hello, what's up everybody? How you feeling tonight? So, as I get set up here, I was deep in writing some new material, something real fresh, but it was cloudy and I was thinking about skipping it, and then all of a sudden it cleared and we got this crazy shot of Jupiter here. I was looking to see if this structure at the top left is a moon shadow, but it doesn't look like it is actually, at least not from Stellarium. And Stellarium has the Great Red Storm dead center right now, and we don't see it. So I'm not exactly sure. So we're just going to stay with it. It's still rising, which is amazing. So it's going to get even clearer. And it's really incredible storm patterns up at the top left. Of course, counter-rotating storms around a Birkeland filament. That's the logic behind it. And Jupiter's magnetosphere and conscious shell reaching us tonight. Hopping into the chat here. Let's see, NGC, RIP, or have lived in peace, Indira, the spider. I will definitely play Hurricane when the vibe shifts. Maybe after this, after a couple of songs, just so it fits our flow. But yeah, spiders are incredible, and it's, I'm sorry if you're sad, but we'll celebrate Indira's life tonight with some planetary interactions. Of course, spiders' bodies are reminiscent of these fields, of the field geometry, and spiders are conscious just like we are, but in a different way, but similar consciousness. Cognition design, what's happening? AK John 74, what's up? And Jedi Princess, how are you? All right, that was from Vibration Theater. Let's move into, all right, there is a song called Dream Field, which I was working on yesterday, and this is totally brand new, just updated it a few hours ago. It's almost ready, but I think I could do some more guitar on it or something. Either way, fresh song and then Hurricane. And we'll stick with this and see what's going on. Also got a shot of Saturn tonight. Thanks everybody. Make sure you're hitting that 4K and seeing it at high definition, and make sure to tell me if the audio is popping at all, or give me that thumbs up if it's sweet. Cool, let's do this.
Yeah.
you on the surface of the moon. They said I'm dead until you know my dream, as none of us will always be waiting for them to wake up eternally.
but yourself, apparitions that we bleed through.
open wide soul modulation. You just come feel this ride so high, your love I'm craving. But I can't see it till you, ooh, just bring me back. Oh, bring me back out of the cold. Just bring me back. Feel your open wide soul modulation. Just to feel this ride so high, your love I'm craving. Just can't see it till you, ooh, just bring me back. Just bring me back out of the cold. You know, bring me back. What up, everybody? All right, that was a couple of new tracks. I played Hurricane for Indira, and then I played Bring Me Back, probably also for Indira. And now take a little break and say what's up to everybody. Astrolabium, what's happening? It says, got you streaming from the big screen tonight, Bretta. Hell yeah. This looks just great when you expand it and you have some good speakers. Yes, Saturn is looking more vertical, like I referenced in the chat. Just going to say it out loud. 18 degrees right now, altitude, apparent altitude, and Jupiter at 21. So last night when we caught Saturn, it was really already very high up. It was already about like 25 degrees. So you see like it's pointing upwards, pretty almost like not straight up actually. That's what did I say? Like, I don't know, like 15, 20 degrees maybe tilted. And so as it goes across the night sky, it'll rotate towards where like it'll almost end up exactly tilted the opposite. If you superimposed it, it would make an X, which is very interesting. Riffs crushed that last track. Hell yeah, that's actually one of the favorite things I've written this year. I think I could do one more pass at the mix on it, but I like that last bit. Thank you. I'm glad y'all are enjoying it, and let me do some more new tunes. Tonight's all new, all new. How's everybody feeling? Harry Crest, what's happening? So yeah, I was saying quickly about Saturn that the seeing is actually really good tonight, given that it's so low, or it's still low. And what I'm going to do really is just stay here for a few more minutes and then hit up Jupiter again, because Jupiter's kind of racing towards the top of my window. I want to get some good shots tonight. How about I have a whole bunch of tracks that are like just ready to go, but like I recorded them on acoustic, but they really need to be like transferred to layers and just gotta play all the parts. There's so many new tracks that I gotta work on this year. Let me do Full of Life. This one's a good vibe. Oh, NGC, no Pluto, unfortunately. That's gonna be a ways away when I get like a 17-inch scope and a backyard, then maybe. Alright, 11:53, rolling into Wednesday here. Some more space. More vibes. That was an older jam, but I felt like it fit. I want to hop in and say what's up to Mary and Miguel and Silent Murmur and anybody else hanging out, lurking in the back. You know who you are. So, yeah, pretty nice storm structure on the upper band of Jupiter. This is camera direct to scope, so it's not even the magnifier and it's still looking this good. Jupiter is now coming up at, 23 degrees? No, yeah, almost 24. It's gotten a little hazier than it was, but still really interesting kind of pinching effect up at the top left, moving around, moving so quickly. But for some reason I'm having the same drift issue. Typically the 11 is so much more steady than this, and I'm having to adjust it every few moments. That's the only lamentation. Otherwise, things are great. How y'all doing? What is up, D-Man? Are there two red storms? Sometimes I see the red eye on the white band below, and sometimes I see on the brown band above. So, I mean, this is kind of the most intense mimic of the Great Red Storm up top right now. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm kind of, it's remarkable in terms of it's something I can remark upon being different. I feel like I've captured a lot of shots of Jupiter, I mean, in the hundreds, and this is one of the unique ones. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all have seen a lot with me. What's happening, 7-Eleven and Mo? How's it going? So we'll see how that fares. I'm pretty sure it's not moon shadows because the moons are pretty far, but yeah, I'm gonna stick with it, and we'll talk a little bit more about, I guess, consciousness. I don't know if you guys are sick of me talking about it, but let me know in the chat, because I have very few opportunities to do it, and I think not a lot of people are talking about consciousness being outside of the human body in plasma layers, physical plasma layers, and how the human organism and tiny quantum particles, or what we think of as particles, and giant celestial superstructures abide by the same fundamental geometry and the same fundamental logic. This idea of these shells, these fields, the hyperboloid and the torus, and at the center there's this moment of now, and that oscillates and radiates and creates these layers of plasma that are imprinted with that unit's time and memory, and it resonates with its shells as it's growing them. It's really interesting. Jupiter's looking like a face right now, like a pretty mopey looking bacon face. Yeah, exactly. Silent Murmur says, looks like Jupiter's eyes are contemplating. So true. And actually, look, I think the Great Red Storm is coming through at the bottom left. So that's pretty cool. Let's see if that happens. Do my eyes deceive me? Let's see. So if you can imagine that Jupiter is now, well, there are several things to imagine about Jupiter. One is that it is grown along a filament. So from its poles that you can see, or I mean, we're looking at it from the side, but if you can imagine a donut around Jupiter, and then a filament going right through the center, and these are like the roots, the electric roots of Jupiter. And Jupiter's, because it's along this filament, at the center of it there must be some sort of Z-pinch, plasmoid, black hole, some sort of core. And when they sent the Juno missions to Jupiter, the report came back about having a fuzzy or deteriorated core, something they didn't really expect. And Wal Thornhill from Thunderbolts Project talks about Jupiter being hollow, potentially, or all planets and stars being hollow. But hollow doesn't mean that there's nothing inside, it just means that there's a very thick layer, and then there's a lot of ether space, and then there's a node in the center. almost if you can imagine a nucleus of an atom and electron shells. So Earth possibly being the same thing, so the entire Earth crust is a spherical, thick shell, and then in the center there's this kind of Z-pinch that was the seed of Earth. So there's that concept. And then if you can imagine that these shells of Jupiter are made of different elements, and the elements organize themselves in layers. So depending on the frequency or the resonance of the plasma, this is what, hydrogen and carbon and helium and nitrogen arrange themselves based on not only the Fibonacci sequence spiral, but also plasma shells. So what happens is when scientists take pictures of Jupiter in these different wavelengths, they're measuring not only brightness and radiance, but they're also measuring elements. So mass spectroscopy, and then they're also measuring with radio satellites, or radio telescopes rather, getting these kind of pulses from Jupiter. This is what Velikovsky predicted and actually ended up happening. Oh shit, what's up, American Life Videos? How you doing? Welcome. American Life says, do I know about third-person remembrance? It kind of proves consciousness resides outside the self. I haven't heard of third-person remembrance, but it does make sense, I guess. Maybe you can link or just tell me what to look up, or I'll just look that up. Third-person remembrance. Is it maybe a video? Why can't I copy this? Let's check it. But essentially, this, there are a lot of different, there are a few people who talk about this. There's Eileen McCusick, I've mentioned her many times. She's been on Thunderbolts, and she talks about the human biofield. And then you have Rupert Sheldrake, who talks about the morphogenetic field, the fact that representation and consciousness of humans and organisms resides not only outside the body, but that everything in the universe is some form of consciousness. Let's see, so third-person remembrance says, observer memories are memories recollected from a perspective outside ourselves, a third-person point of view. Typically, older memories are recollected through an observer perspective, and observer memories are more often reconstructions, while field memories are more like vivid copies. This is really cool. I'm going to read more about this. It's kind of a lot of jargon, but it makes sense as to really physically what's happening, where there's a node or your pineal gland or your crown chakra or any chakra of your body resonating with its field is a form of consciousness. And since cultures and organisms and molecules, cells, groups of cells, organs, the human body create their own version of this geometry. Therefore, they're all interlocking and intersecting and overlapping, as well as moving along the Birkeland filament. It's really incredible. And talking about fields of dreams or dream fields, when you go to bed, you're laying down and your chakras, your heart chakra, well, all your chakras aligned, but the cones, the hyperboloid or the Fibonacci spiral is actually pointed upwards because you're laying horizontal. When you're standing, if you've ever seen Donnie Darko, where he has that kind of ectoplasm coming out of his chest, so all your chakras are actually aimed right hand or like perpendicular to the front of your body. But when you're laying down, you're getting these vortexes aligned through your whole spine and your whole body really, and absorbing shells from not only your own shells, but the entire town you're in, city you're in, so on and so forth, and even reaching out to space, because like right now, we're seeing Jupiter. How do you think we see things? I think by this idea even of reflection, what is actually reflecting? If light doesn't travel, and it's not a photon, which it cannot be proven to be a packet a singular particle because you have the particle-wave duality. It's not solved. But if you follow Ken Wheeler, you'll realize that it doesn't need to be solved. Mother Nature doesn't do that sort of thing. There's no duality. It's simply a perturbation in the ether. And that's what light is. So light is not a particle. And there are no such things as waves. I'm kind of regurgitating what Ken says, but it makes a lot of sense if you imagine that we're connected with Jupiter right now via a series of plasma bubbles and shells, all connected between us and Jupiter. That's how you get radio waves, that's how you get spectrums, that's how you get really what we're seeing now, an optical spectrum, which is an overlapping of all the shells of elements of Jupiter coming at us all together. That's why when you do different wavelength photography, you'll see you get different, you'll get a black and white image, an RGB, and you kind of stack it, and then you get this full optical image that we're getting right here. Let's see, Mary says, what if you sleep on your side? So I imagine that our auric biofield actually goes through the floor. Since it's made out of really etheric plasma, which essentially I imagine to be, you can imagine it as space or air, really just charged, dense, like loose clouds of dense plasma. That's the way Eileen McCusick describes it. But I think it's a little more organized, a little bit like Sapphire Project with these shells, so gradiated shells that retain layers, or that retain information in the form of electrical resonance in plasma, almost like if you've ever seen those Lichtenberg in acrylic art pieces, where it's like a lightning bolt trapped inside like a little piece of glass. I'm looking at the chat right here. Give me a moment. Oh, what's up, Aram Vorax? Welcome. Okay, what's up, Kat Dan? How you doing? Welcome. Sorry, I missed a bunch here. So third person remembrance, okay. Genghis Khan, what's happening? Let's see, working so much. They do arrange themselves, hell yeah, according to the shells. This is what Sapphire Project discovered, where they have different, where the elements kind of split themselves up. I would imagine our cells do the same sort of thing. That's how it stays organized. And organization occurs as the incommensurability between space and counter space, essentially where matter exists is at these filamentary kind of nodal points. And what's really interesting, I'm going to share an incredible video tonight, which is very popular. For some reason I missed it, but it's like the two top ALV, is it LA? Not ALV, that's ALV is in the chat, LFE or something, where they're basically taking pictures of high voltage lightning and sprites, and they have a video of sprites that's just outstanding. I think they did it this year. It's incredible. Remind me if I forget. I'm going to definitely post that for y'all. So let's see. ALD says, it's when you remember something from your past, like childhood, but you see yourself watching the scene instead of the first person view. Well, I would imagine, like Eileen McCusick talks about how your birth is stored 6 feet away from you, let's say, or 12 feet away from you. So I imagine that like when you're born, or when you're a little seedling, you start oscillating as a heart, let's say, and you start creating those first memories of existence. And then when you're born as a human body, it creates that first layer, second layer, and that starts moving away from you, and like time slipping, and ultimately it ends up as far away from you as possible, and like your short-term memory is close to you. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, like the original Donnie Darko before they changed the Killing Moon song. Did they really change that? No. Please don't ruin it for me. That movie, it's like Trainspotting 2. Like really, I don't want that. Just leave Donnie Darko alone. Okay. All right, Jedi Princess says, your thoughts, but I feel like there has been and will be a significant impact on consciousness and how we relate to others. Wait, did I miss the first part of that? No. Part two, part question. Okay, with isolation, masking, I feel like people's energies are very different. As of late, almost condensed. It's palpable when passing masked people on the street. 90 plus are masked where I live. So I think things like viruses and just catastrophic events on Earth are really necessary. I know that maybe sounds controversial, but I think that it's like this idea of, there are Zen teachings where they talk about, like, would you really want immortality? For example, like physical immortality? Because imagine you had everybody and everyone could live forever. You'd really have an excess of people, and that wouldn't be sustainable. But at the same time, you can't have things get birthed and immediately all die. So you can't have total catastrophe. So in some way, Earth is really a very balanced system. The same way we can see Jupiter right now. Jupiter has reached a sort of stability in its structure in relation to its counter space. So I imagine Earth has reached its kind of equilibrium between itself and space. Now you could say that Earth is on a bad track, that we're headed towards something bad, but that's speculation. What's really happening is Earth is maintaining itself through this Birkeland current, which allows tiny fractal versions of Earth to exist as people on its surface, while also observing the larger whole. Billions of miles into space, we get to look at it, and it's right there. So that is never lost on me. The fact that you can actually go outside and look at these planets means we're completely connected and necessary to the system, because without us, things are not. The zen of it would be, without humans, without the human aperture, the title of the show tonight, when Jupiter wouldn't matter. It needs a viewer in order to exist. So we coexist with everything. So I imagine that things like viruses are things we coexist with, where, like, even if people imagine humans being a cancer, let's say, or a virus on Earth, okay, but still, people are nice, and people are musicians, and some people suck, So I feel like this virus thing will pass to some degree. That's part A. Part B would be that things fractalize, so they get finer and finer and more complicated. So think about how much content we have now, how much data, how much information, and how many people now. There are 4 billion more people than there were in the 70s. So Earth is doing fine. The human race is multiplying at an extraordinary rate. Species that potentially, a lot of species went extinct, but we also have brand new species popping up constantly. Evolved, not even evolved necessarily, but variegated and mutated species, because things are kind of watching, like the self is watching the self and turning creatures into trees and trees into insects and so on, and fish into people. No, that's not true. Fish into other types of fish. But because there's no reason for fish to have turned into people, because they're still fish. Otherwise, I'm going to turn the show into evolutionary theory, but there is an argument to be made for the fact that things exist at the scale they exist on. So the complexity of a human being doesn't necessarily have to come from the primitiveness of a fish. Jedi Princess, hope I answered that concisely. But it sucks, because we do have to exist with terrible things, but at the same time, knowing that things are natural and perfectly fine allows us to live with terrible things. That's the answer. Got Jupiter here, but it's fading because it's just hitting the windowsill. Really cool shadow up top. I'm not sure if it's the shadow of Io or if it's just the storm system, but it's looking good. There, I can make it brighter. Oh, check this out, actually. What's going on there? See, there's something wrong with Stellarium and Jupiter's precession. I'm gonna have to check it, but that is Europa popping out of the left. And then, yeah. Is it? No. Man, what is going on? Ganymede, Io, Europa. Yeah, it's gotta be. That's pretty cool. All right, jumping down to the chat. Earth recycles itself. How people are behaving and feeling. Well, in terms of how people are behaving and the rise of artificial, so-called artificial intelligence, I think that people are definitely going to become more of what they were in the past. So if people were intelligent, they're going to become more intelligent. If people were fearful, they're going to become more fearful. And that's the way it fractalizes. In an odd way, like if you can imagine that the Earth was very small and it had gigantism. Now Earth is very big and it has, well, things have scaled down. So there's kind of interesting relationship between scales and dimensions. Let's see. I think one of the, so like I was saying earlier about speculation, again, like I mentioned the other night about aliens, or we talk about conspiracies, there's one thing to imagine and to speculate and to theorize, and it's a whole other thing to actually experience. And I think the reason that's the way it is because let's say we're this oscillating nub creating an existence, right? I think you need to be able to have unlimited possibility of conscious imagination in order to condense matter into what we perceive as an entire spectrum of life. And what that means is that just because you are who you are doesn't mean somebody else is not going to like walk on a really dangerous precipice across a mountaintop, something that almost no one would do. And similarly, there'll be guitar players that will play for 100,000 people or 500,000 people, and I won't, even though I can play guitar probably pretty well. Things like that, just because you can imagine these things like the end of the world or living forever or space travel doesn't necessarily mean it's actually physically going to manifest for you or for me. There's a high probability that there are craft on Earth right now that can go to space. There's a likelihood, but that's speculation. See, I don't know exactly if that's true. But I think it's definitely important to realize, like, just guessing things versus actually existing. And I think part of the Zen teaching that Alan Watts was talking about is that by virtue of existing, you already have proven that things are fine. Because right now, even when I'm talking to you, even though you're probably calm and sitting alone thinking about things, you're not managing blood flow. You're not aging your body. You're not creating new cells. I mean, consciously you're not, or at least you're not aware that you are, but your body that you're delegating all this responsibility to is creating cells, digesting your food, breathing. You're not doing that. You don't know how it all works. Language falls apart when you try and explain how your lungs were made or how your eyeballs came into existence. But really, you did all that work. So once you realize that you are already the Godhead or the creator, then you realize that it's fine to just exist and enjoy it. It's also fine to speculate and be worried about things. It's also fine to not be worried at all about things. That's really the answer, is that every version of things should be able to exist. And if it does, that's great. That's a sign that the system is working well. All right, on that note, I'm going to take a little breather, stretch, and play some Space Race. So it's a good call. I need to find it first. And we'll switch over to Saturn, because actually, I'll stay with Jupiter a bit longer. Europa is looking nice, but I just got to adjust it. Where is this song? Is it not called Space Race? It definitely is. I love it. On the spot. Oh, it's called Race to Space. There we go. Snack time. Give you love and I come in peace. I feel your pain cause it's part of me. I know you really think we need buddies, but I'm amazed by the shapes of your lips. Hear your name but we come in peace. It's insane that you're part of me. Never lifts from the iron wrists. It's as if everybody is the same buddy. Feel insane and I yearn for relief. Maybe someday there's some in me. I am made of the will of somebody. Someday, buddy, we'll get the slip. Here in space now we come in peace. Seeing things that you cannot believe. Ready to trip on the drift. We can lift to the new, cause I love to give you. We are the space race, we are the moonball. We are the franchise, we are the sequel. They are the ether, how are we still here? For your place along the space race. Somehow we lived, somehow we died, somehow we came back from the city of cries. We drive through civilized genocide. Kind of like with your armies coming down from the western forces. Got no love but you harm me. We've been paid for your western forces. But when you scream out and you sing loud, everybody wanna tear you down. Step to it, I got nothing but love to share with you. We are the space race, we are the moonlight, we are the franchise, we are the sequel, made of the ether. How are we still here? Looking for your place along the space race. space theater seems no one weirder comes Lord Davin, soulful speaker brings me back over telephone line. Telephone line, running amok in future time. But my space theater seems no one lives here and existence has no motives either. Bring me back to your element. Chronos down and hemispheres into machines. Collective iris the machine. Collective iris. Oh my love, I make no mistake when you arrive. No other will do what dreamers buy. The love is misshapen, claiming for the crowd. I know it's up to you, point me up into. And if it was your mythical action, I know you're distracting me from this dream I had been forced last night. Our love geometry will lead. Our music plays and get high up in space, man. Receiver of love, believer of something. The music plays and get high up in space, kid. Receiving your love, deceiving nothing. The music plays and get high up in space, man. Receiving your love, believing something. The music plays and get high up in space, kid. Receiving your love, deceiving nothing. The music plays and receiving your love. All right. Oh, look, it's back. That's nice. I was going to play another quick one and then call it, but I guess Jupiter has other plans. Sweet. Look at that. All right, so... Mary, have a great night. I'll see you soon on the next one. Enjoy it. Sleep well. Let's see. I'm going to play some tunes here that y'all haven't heard. It's always my aim. Scrolling through the list. Someday, then come our train, station away to find your mama. Brain acquisition sold at the bitter end, scanning fine features down at the Village Inn. A nightmare on Prince found you in Triangle Park, dark subway in the bar. Yeah, on Houston. I don't wanna fall asleep no more. Just waiting for his train at Prince and Houston. Say, I don't wanna follow shit no more. Just get me to the rain at Prince and Houston. I don't wanna fall asleep no more. Just waiting for a train. all right. I'm gonna let it drift off and run the show. I appreciate it, everybody. Tonight was really fun. Concise, clear chat. And good views of Jupiter and now Saturn. I'll be back in tomorrow or the day after, if the skies are clear, of course. Remember, consciousness could be outside the body and all organisms, so think about that. Take a look at the description for links of awesome channels, Electric Universe Eyes, Sky Scholar, look up Halton Arp, give some of these people some light because there's so many channels out there spewing total nonsense. Check out Ken Wheeler, his recent, past whole month of videos has been unbelievable, so good. I don't agree with him about everything culturally, but I definitely agree with almost everything he says scientifically. So run this back from the top. We'll do this and then Formidable Opponent. Cheers, everybody. Shout outs to everybody who wasn't here tonight, all the old TakeBackSpacers. You're always welcome, and whatever reason you have for not being here, I hope you're feeling okay out there. Karen B says, I watched Sky Scholar, heck yeah. I'll read up on the third person stuff, for sure. Good dreams and positive energy to the Space Tribe, awesome. Yep. All right, everybody, take care. Have an excellent day tomorrow. Thanks for all the kind comments and your presence. We'll catch you soon. Peace. walk out. Formidable opponent, think you had the choice. Formidable opponent, angry crapper. Formidable opponent, dangerous lecture. Formidable opponent, you can walk out. Formidable opponent, think you had the choice. Now you're left for dead. Just pay your debts. Float, the moon is calling. A souvenir. A soon's rescue. I hope you may. Left fixing the phone. Mixing your liquids. Now you're left for dead. Just pay your debts. Float, the moon is calling. A souvenir. A soon's rescue. I hope you may. Left fixing the phone, mixing your liquids, now you're left for dead. Just pay your debts. A formidable opponent, an angry crapper. Formidable opponent, dangerous lecture. Formidable opponent, you can walk out. Formidable opponent, think you had the choice. Formidable opponent, an angry crapper. Formidable opponent. Dangerous lecture. Formidable opponent. You can walk out. Formidable opponent.